the head coach at Contractor Coach Pro and your host on Contractor Radio. Contractor Radio, the idea behind it is to help you guys as contractors improve your game, give you some strategies, some tactics, some tools, advice, and interview experts and industry movers and shakers to help you with your business. We hope that this has been something that's brought you a lot of value. It is sponsored by us, Contractor Coach Pro, and so we devote time each and every week to trying to bring you the best of the best. And today we're going to be talking about a very hot topic across the nation. We're going to be talking about deductibles and what those mean. There's lots of states that have laws for them, Texas being one of those ones that's just brought it into the equation. And we want to talk a little bit about that. We want to talk about some of your options and how you might get over this hurdle of, especially in the state of Texas, which I always call it the Wild West, very set on this idea of taking care of people's deductibles. And we'll talk about what that means too. But we brought somebody in today I'm super excited to have on. He is with Fund My Deductible. He's actually the founder of it. And I could not be happier to talk about this because some of his people that he struggles with are some of the same people I struggle with whenever it comes to this. So I think we'll have a pretty cool conversation about that. And so I want to welcome in Kris Kincaid from Fund My Deductible. Kris, welcome aboard, man.
Hey, Jim. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. And so we're going to talk that. Like that's a word, like almost a cuss word in our business, deductible, right? As soon as you hear that word, there's like all this for or against, and you get this concept of like, hey, people signed a contract to do that, and then you have the other people, well, I'm a contractor, I should be able to charge what I want to charge. And so we're going to talk about some of that fun stuff, but before we get there, just give us a little background, like, you know, what you were doing before, what brought this all about, and kind of where you're headed.
So yeah, the deductible, it's one of those when you're in the conversation with, selling a roof, when do I breach it? How do I breach it? So I'm a contractor by trade. I've been in the restoration industry since 2001, and first storm was Omaha, Nebraska, and chased some storms. Realized that's really tough on my relationship, and so now live in Lubbock, Texas, and I've got was a roofing contractor. And so I know the problems. I've been there. We're in Texas. And so, that's my background. So I'm a local company. I don't chase much. I definitely have respect the guys that do it and do it well. There's some that do it well and there's some that don't. But there's a lot of good, big chasing guys out there. I just, set my business model up a little bit different to stay local. Commercially, we'll go out. But yeah, so, the House Bill 2102 came out and it's got some teeth. And, we were all, we wanted a level playing field for those that have us. We're trying to do the right thing from the get. And it's tough to compete with guys that are habitually doing it. And so the law came out and we, how can we make this convenient? How can we make it work? Reading the law, it says with an executed finance that, the depreciation could be released. And so we were going to do it in-house, and we started crunching the numbers on it, or, funding these in-house. Okay, Mrs. Smith, you got $2,000 deductible. It's paid out over a year or 2 years or whatever term we wanted to set. But we realized if we did an average of, I think, 15 deductibles on an average of a 3-year term, we're going to touch that over 1,000 times. And that became so cumbersome to keep up with, and office help and that. So we started with software and created software to do it, and kind of got us to where we're at. But before that, so after we got the software going, right, look, this is a great deal, and I feel like it'll help the industry do the right thing, give people the opportunity to do the right thing. And so to offer it to other people, there's some guys in our market that are like, dude, this is awesome. Can we use this? So we created Fund My Deductible, FMD, and soon after that, we got, Sarah Burns with RCAT. She helped really push us, and we kind of started making some small waves. And the first hurdle we hit was Steve Badger. And, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? I don't think this is, some, I don't want to say scary emails, but they meant business, and basically stating that he didn't know if what we were doing, and he'd allow his carriers to accept what we were doing. So with the help of John Hotailing, we have a relationship with him. We went and met with the authors of the bill, Cabriglione and Zaffarini, flew to the state capitol with Hotailing, which is one of the cooler days of my life. If you don't know John, he's quite the attorney, and just told them what we're doing and got their blessing. And said, look, this, it hurts our model if people aren't paying it, because that was one of Steve's concerns. And it's a valid concern that a lot of these contractors are like, okay, yeah, we're going to fund this in-house, or FMB is going to do it, make your first 5 payments and stop. We were clear that, like, look, this hurts our business model for people to do that. And so it doesn't make any sense. And so, weeks later, John and Steve had a meeting, and at the end of it, Steve believed what we were doing was righteous, and we're trying to do the right thing, and it says it in the law. And so we've got his blessing now. So we did a 180, and it's good. It's very rare that John and Steve will agree on something, but I think FMD is one of them.
Yeah, that is unusual for Steve Badger to agree with anything that has to do with a contractor.
Right.
I love that guy, really. Like he's a staunch advocate for his people, and that's really who I would want on my side if I was in that situation. We've had our run-ins, but there's respect there, I hope. It's cool to hear that he is now on board with this. And really, I think the reason a lot of it is that it is through software, it is trackable, it is something that you could test that. And really and truly, this is a business for you. Like, you're making money doing this, so it doesn't do you any good to get 4 or 5 payments. You want to get them all because there's, you're getting a slice of that piece of pie. And so it wouldn't make any sense, and should make sense to everybody else. So this deductible law got passed in the state of Texas. This is a law that's been passed in other states. The ones I'm most familiar with are Minnesota, Georgia, and Colorado. And so the same problems are happening here that happened in those states, just getting the word out, making sure everybody knows, and having some type of blitz out there to say, hey, this is what it is, getting the insurance carriers on board to notify their homeowners. And really and truthfully, I think the biggest hurdle is getting contractors to believe in themselves enough that they're worth the deductible.
Yes.
That they're worth that work. And if you do good work, I don't see why you wouldn't feel that you're worth what the insurance company is saying it's going to cost to get that work done. Mm-hmm. So I think that's our biggest hurdle, to get that belief, to get that education out there, to get this situation where we quit competing on price and we start competing on value. Like, what do you bring to make you worth that amount? And so that's what we're working on here at Contractor Coach Pro. We've been doing it for 7 years. It's slowly but surely getting better, I think. Guys like you and several others, many of the RCAP members are all on board for this. And so it's been cool to kind of see this happen in Texas. The one thing I know in those other states, as I was going through with those guys, is it takes a while, and nobody wants to hear that, right? Everybody wants it to be magic. September 1st of 2019, everybody knows, and they just pay their deductible and everything's easy. And all the contractors.
Talk with the guys that are still doing it. I keep hearing that. When are they going to get busted? Because it's obviously still going on. But I do know, and we are dealing with Badger and some others that are, getting the guys that are not doing the right thing and to get it where there's some consequence for it, and everybody wants it yesterday, but it's coming, and they didn't, they went through so much to get this bill passed. I mean, this was contentious on both sides. I know it went to 9 at night. It was, if you go and watch it, it's kind of comical, but so there were some concessions made to get it passed. One of them was, the original one, I believe, had it where, the homeowner had some skin in the game. The homeowner could get in trouble, which, obviously that would be good to be beneficial in getting it collected if the homeowner had some consequences for them. The other one was that, and that I believe, I don't like it either, but nothing's perfect, is the fact that the carrier has the opportunity to waive the deductible. And so that creates some, definitely some issues, but to get that passed, they had to make some concessions to get it going. And so they got it passed, but it's not perfect, but it's a start, and it helps level the playing field for the guys that are really trying to do the right thing, to collect the deductibles, because, when you've got guys in the market, there's guys in the market that do it every now and then to sell. Then there's one that's like, that's their business model. And it's tough when you're trying to compete on that. In Texas, these deductibles are 1% to 2% of the insured value. So, average is $2,500, $2,000. So that cuts right into your profit, or it cuts it in half easy. So.
Yeah, like I don't want to take half the profit away from the equation, especially when I do great work and I feel like we deserve it.
Exactly. And that's, we're going to Xactimate what we're talking about. Xactimate is an average of the high and the low in the market. So then you're taking the average price and then cutting it in half, whatever their deductible is. So, man, you can't survive on those margins, and some can on super large volume, but you're taking on a lot more liability. There's problems that come up with jobs, and you need to be able to sustain a company with margin and to go to get through some of that. If you're not somebody doing 3,000 roofs a year, it's just it's not sustainable for somebody doing 20 to 50 roofs a year covering every deductible.
I don't know. We used to do 2,000-3,000 roofs a year, and I wasn't willing to cut that out just because I was doing volume. Like, we deserved it. We did good work.
That's why you were killing it then.
Yeah, we were doing okay. We're doing okay. Now, roofs weren't the price they are today back in those days. That's been the amazing thing, too. You've got the couple of things going on. Roofing has pretty much doubled in the last 10 years due to material price increases, the cost of metal, and the cost of labor. All of those things have gone up dramatically. And then you have the other thing working against you, that deductibles have risen from, I remember the days when they were $250, $500. I still collected those too, just so you know. Like, I didn't say, no, you get out of that. But now they can, if you're in like Lubbock and Dallas and some of those places, you get 1%ers most of the time, and then some 2%ers. Yeah. If you're a coastal county, either right on the coast or one end, you can be as much as 4 or 5%. Like, you literally pay out of pocket for your roof because you just don't have enough room there to have the insurance company cover anything. And that's, I think, calculated on their part. I think it's wrong. I think it's something that it's not like they're losing money. You see the reports. We all look at that stuff of what they actually make. And so I get frustrated over those things. I don't think insurance is there for what it was originally intended for, which was to take care of you when bad things happen. And now it seems to be a little bit more about how much dividends are the shareholders making, and that's my opinion. So don't have a whole bunch of podcasts. Yeah, don't have a whole bunch of attorneys chase me down.
ACV policy, lovely.
Yeah, well, they're gonna tilt the playing field in their favor because they have shareholders to answer to on profitability. So let's set that to the side for a second. We can talk about how we get frustrated with insurance companies till the cows come home. How does Fund My Deductible actually work? Like, I say, hey, I want to try this out. How does it work?
So to be clear, it's a great question. So we are not. I don't say we've created this niche, but it's just funding a payment over time. So I'll go back to, you're sitting down with Mrs. Smith, and she has a $2,000 deductible. There's no qualifying, there's no interest. Anything like that. The most intrusive thing we need is your date of birth, and that's so we can report to the credit agencies if they don't pay. So what we do charge is we charge the contractor 6% of the funded amount. So $1,000 deductible, $60. There it is. So and then we charge right now, which I think is extremely reasonable, $50 for the whole company. I don't care if you have 100 salesmen or 10 salesmen or 5 salesmen, $50 subscription renewal fee to do that. And so a lot of contractors will ask, well, I can just do that in house. Well, that's what we thought we were going to do, but it becomes a task and a chore where you're taken away from your office help doing that and dedicating a lot of time to that. And so what we do is, we automate that process where they can set up a funded payment on a set term with the homeowner. So say, we're going to do, it's got $2,000 deductible, do 12-month term. And so we set that up in FMD, and it's automatically can go ACH, debit or credit card. So they get that set up and the payment date set up. And after the first payment is made, they will get their executed funding agreement, which will be recognized by the insurance company as an invoice or a financing agreement, so that the depreciated amount will be released. So that's, that's the gist of it. So it's the contractor paying the percentage and not the homeowner. So that's why there's no qualifying or anything like that. And, if you're going to process a credit card, it's 3% or around that anyways. So, the guy that's saying we can do this in house, then obviously then do it, but it's going to be hard to do when it's costing you 3% to run credit card and stuff like that too. So, so now what we do is we collect the funded amount. So Mrs. Smith paid, her $200 this month. At the end of the month, we were doing quarterly payouts. Now we've got our system, I don't say more tweaked, but with the software, when credit cards run and, stuff that I'm not an expert at, but have become, we're doing a monthly payout. So, for example, if you've got 10 salesmen and, each salesman sold, it'll break down what each salesman is their percent. So we all know that the deductible should be, unless it's a 2%, is mostly profit. So what we always say is you can pre-cap those jobs out, and everybody pays different. Some pay profit, some pay gross, but you can pre-cap jobs out and go ahead and pay on their commission if you're paying that structure. And then every payment that comes in on that job after that should be profit. And then you just add your commission split to that. So I have an example of a contractor. Let me see if I can get this. But that was their payout. This is a real one, $3,436. You can see the salesman, what they did, Corey Meadows, he had 3 customers and that was their payments. There was a total of $324 this month. And then whatever his commission is or gross, you pay him off of that. So in a nutshell, that's how it works. We give the reporting to you. It's got open API where you can download it into your Excel or your programs and see exactly what your company's doing. And that way, and you can track it. So it's kind of the Cliff Notes version of it, but we tried to keep it extremely simple. Always said, I want my 12-year-old daughter to be able to go and fund a deductible and keep it simple. So that's what it works. I mean, that's how it started.
Yeah. So there's a lot there to unpack a little bit, and I don't want you to scare anybody, because you said one of those dirty words that has to do with contractors, which is open API. They have no clue what that means. It just sounds like technology, and I'm scared to death of it.
I just learned it too. So.
Yeah. So what that means though is that they supply you their information on their sales reps, right? Like how they pay and stuff like that. You guys help them get that into the software. Is that something they put their own guys in and put in what their commissions are?
Just provide the information on what was paid, because there's so many different ways these companies do that. So we just say, give the report on the amount collected. So, and then like we will send an Excel spreadsheet and they can load that into QuickBooks or whatever they need. But then the only thing they have to do is apply whatever method of however they're paying their salesmen to do that. So
if they're like 10% off the top, if it's 10% off the top, it's just going to take that number and say, here's 10% of that, and that's what you should pay your guy. But if they're 40% of the gross profit, or crazy enough, 50% of the gross profit, then it'll just split that number, and that's all pre-done because I put in my guy's name and how he gets paid, and then it spits out a report for me. Is that correct, or is it just the funded amount?
It's just the total amount funded, because
and then they take that number and just put it into it.
Okay. So like if it's $1,000 and they're at 10%, obviously the company would know, okay, Craig gets $100. If it's 40% commission, then he knows he gets his $400. It just got too complicated. We thought about that, but with the software, and I mean, I always say it's like my wife saying, hey, can we move this wall? I know it's a load-bearing wall. us, like, we can't just move that button. Like, oh, that's a $30,000 button because of the way of everything's integrated in the logic. So, but we felt like that was simple enough to like just let them apply their own commission or payout to their staff or salesmen.
So every contractor that's on Fund My Deductible gets a report by sales guy and overall of what was funded, and then they take that and pay commissions accordingly based on whatever their system is.
Correct.
So
cool. Go ahead. Sorry.
So what that says to me is like, it's kind of like me, the contractor, saying, hey, I've organized a payment system for you, Mrs. Homeowner, and then they pay however, whatever those terms may be. We'll talk about that in a minute. But as a rep, I've got money coming in over time. As a company, I've got money coming in over time that I may not have ever gotten before. It may have been a situation where I was used to eating deductibles, and it's kind of the way I went about doing things. Now I got this dumb law that I got to deal with. And so I want to make that easier for my homeowner. And then I get this check that I never got before just showing up once a month. And it's kind of the same thing for the rep. Like, he's got this check on all these jobs he's sold. It seems like I might not go anywhere if I knew I had money coming in as a sales rep.
Sure. I mean, really, for anybody that was covering any or all of them, you can call it found money, but that the dirty name for a dirty word for an owner is draw, depending on how you have your company set up. But, if you have a salesman that funds $100,000 with deductibles over a year or 2 years, and he's paid out each month, it creates a residual income for him to get off a draw or whatever method you have going, and to get those deductibles collected. We always say, well, if you can collect the deductible, do it, absolutely. But a lot of times, people are on fixed income, or they just don't want to pay it, but they know they have to now. We say use it as a tool in your tool belt, because we had a situation with two big contractors, and it was a $50,000 deductible. And so this guy's got money. It was a $5 million home in the Metroplex, and one company offered to fund the $50,000 over a year, and for 0% and no qualifying, and it helped him win the award. There's other factors in play, but having that as a tool, to fund that out. So it's like, if you're going to buy furniture, do you want to pay for it right now, the $10,000 furniture, or $50,000 for the furniture? Or you want to put it out over a year for nothing? Well, I'm going to put it out over for a year. So it's a good tool to use in your arsenal of selling tools. And not every job, if it's a 2% deductible, then that probably is going to be cutting into the quick. And, you might say, all right, I need half down. You can fund the rest, and also, not to skip around, but we're also creating an expensive button to fund anything else. So, higher margin items like, solar vents or riser ridge or Z ridge or a class 4 shingles, you can show somebody how their payment will be lower to put on a class 4 shingle than the money they're going to save a month. So they actually be making money and funding that out. And also with my company, we had some bad debt from, the guy that's dog was dying and spent all the roof money after we put the roof on to save the dog. And I get it, but at the end of the day, we need our money. And so we had, I think, $68,000 worth of bad debt. And we had one of our girls that was untrained to do this, just go and set it up. And she set up $28,000 worth of our bad debt in about a week. And so that was completely found money. So it's just another, more of it. We figured out it was more of a versatile tool than just deductibles. It's a mechanism to get people to pay. So what we've learned is, if you give people the ability to make payments and to do the right thing without hitting them, all at the same time, then a lot of times they'll do that, because the $200 payment for the guy that's dog died wouldn't be able to pay us any other way. And so that's, it's money we're getting in, and now I don't have to, leave his house. And that takes me to the collection part. People ask, well, how do I know I'm going to get paid? That's probably the main question we get, because this is not traditional financing. And my response is, number one, they're homeowners. They're not renters. And so they care about their credit, and we report their credit. And if we have to, so after we go through our collection process, we're not a collection. We are not a collection company. But after we go through the process of trying to get that, at 45 days, if we deem it's uncollectible, we'll go to the contractor and say, all right, John's contracting. Mrs. Smith is not paying her obligation, and you have, in most states, you still have at least 2 weeks to file a lien to secure that. So, but my answer is most of these are homeowners that care about their credit, and they don't want that to be affected, especially for a $50 to $100 to $200 a month deductible payment, which kind of jumping around also takes me to the terms. We leave it up to the contractor to set the terms. Our minimum is $25 a month, no matter what the deductible is, or 1% of the deductible, which I would not recommend. That puts it out at about 8 years. If there's those companies that were covering every one of them anyways, that might sound great to them, but we leave it up to the company to say, all right, John's roofing, like, look, this fun FMD thing's great, but we're only going to do 6 months, or we're only going to do a year, or we'll do 2 years. So it's flexible in that aspect.
That's super cool. I wasn't aware of that that it's up to me, like whoever I'm talking with as a homeowner, I can make some judgments and have a conversation about budget and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's what gives you the deal to make the deal. I mean, I've sat at 1,000 dinner tables and sold 1,000 roofs, and it's like you're constructing a deal. And before, when you might have been taking care of the deductible, how that was part of you structuring a deal. Well, this way, I mean, if they have the ability to make a payment of, minimal payment, $25, even if it's a $2,000 deductible, if you can't sell that roof and get that deductible, then something's wrong, right?
Yeah, that would not be the choice I would make if I was a contractor today.
Sure.
I'd be like, nothing more than a year. And we use the if I could, would you clause. So if I could reduce your payments out over 12 months and allow you to pay that out, would you choose us today? And see if we can get that type of thing taken care of.
And I would have said, I know how you feel. The feel felt found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way when I went to buy furniture, but what I found is I was able to fund it out for a year, and it was a win-win.
Yeah, because I get to keep the money in my pocket and use that money to further my finances instead of your finances, which is always great. So Fund My Deductible sounds pretty simple. How do people get in contact with you?
They just go to our website and sign up, or they can get contact at Fund My Deductible, and we will send them some information. The sign up is very easy. It just depends on how big your company is. It takes anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how many salesmen, but it's all automated. One thing I did forget to talk about is the portals, and that's a weird new word for me too. But so when you sign up, you'll have the admin portal for the contractor, which only the admin for the company will see, the owners, and then they'll be able to see all their salesmen, and then all the salesmen's homeowners. And then the salesman will have their own portal where the salesman just sees his business and what he's done, and he can log in and see all the deductibles he's got funded and when they're going to pay and all that. So we have the salesman portal, the admin portal for the contractor. And then we also have a policyholder portal, or the homeowners portal, where they can log in and make a one-time payment if they want, and get caught up. The only thing they can't do is extend or is decrease their terms where it's beneficial for them. They can increase their terms to pay it off faster, or they can make a one-time payment to do that. And that also reminds me, that was one thing that we figured out, because we don't want anybody trying to scam the system or anything, but you don't get the executed funding agreement until they've made their first payment. So we realized that if they signed up and they did the agreement, that they could get the executed funding agreement and then try to cancel. But so when you are funding a deductible with your homeowner, you have the option of when do you want the first payment to start, because some people don't want to pay until the roof's going to go on or close. And so if your company's about a month out, say, all right, Mrs. Smith, we'll put it at about a month out, and at that time it's gonna charge. And then after they made their agreement, so you don't get it just when they sign up, they send it in, they cancel, and they don't do it.
So this funding agreement, is that something that you guys send to the contractor once that first payment's made?
Yes, after the first payment's made, the salesman gets a copy of it, the homeowner gets a copy of it, and the roofing office gets a copy of it, and so do we as FMD to know what's going on. So that way everybody has it, and insurance companies here are definitely in Texas are starting to require proof of payment of the deductible, especially Farm Bureau, Cypress. I had one from Farmers the other day, and we have not had any issues with them accepting our agreement. And if you do, John Hoteling would love to know about it.
Nice. So I always ask my guests a few questions that may not necessarily pertain to what we're talking about. So I want to talk about you for a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Surprise. So the first question I always ask everybody, what's your greatest achievement to date? And can it be about getting married or having kids? That's too
your kids.
Yeah. So getting none of that stuff. Like we know that. And I'm getting you out right now, right? Like if it wasn't going to be the wife and kids, now you're not going to get in trouble. So other than that, what's your greatest achievement to this point in life?
I wasn't ready for that one. I just have to say it's with what we're trying to do with the roofing industry and some positive change and being a contractor and now changing hats to something else that's related to the industry and trying to do the right thing is something I'm very proud of. And a lot of the, one of the best things we did is just started going to some of these conferences and meeting people like you. I met you at a conference and all these really influential people in the business. And you and I kind of talked about this. There's kind of a dark side, and then there's the other side, and it's like, and they're all at the conferences, right? So it's kind of neat to be able to network. And I would just say that a lot of the relationships I've made in the last 2 years, the Reeds are some awesome people, Hoteling, Philip Sanoff. There's a bunch of people that have helped us, as a contractor and as FMD. So I'm really proud to be able to represent the industry in a positive form of change, or at least I hope it is. I know, it's not a perfect law, but I think that this is gives everybody a good tool to do the right thing.
I would agree. Yeah, that law is, and this happened in those other states that I mentioned before too. You got to get an inch to get a mile. And so it's like a first step. Like I don't know how many years RCAT's been trying to get that kind of stuff done and didn't get done. And then finally we got at least a little bite. We got 1 inch. And now that we got an inch, we're going to be like a bulldog. We're just not going to let go. And hopefully we get to the point where there's licensing, to be honest with you. I think state licensing is important. It protects the homeowner who really and truthfully I'm all about. Yeah, we help you contractors, but the idea being that the consumer finds somebody that they can trust.
But all right. They carry insurance. Wouldn't that be, they mandate they carry insurance. I am very, I'm conservative, but at some point, if you're putting a roof on a whatever value house, $50,000 to $1 million house, don't you think it's a good idea that contractor carry insurance? I mean,
it seems
on a local level, we tried to get that done in Lubbock, and it was another can of worms. But it's one of those.
Seems kind of important. I would really use that to my advantage and carry insurance. I know that. So question number 2 out of 3. Okay. What's the most valuable piece of advice you've ever gotten that's helped you move forward in life?
I would say, man, you know what? Golly, there's a lot of them. One that I use a lot is, dogs eat and pigs get slaughtered. And I don't, from whether you're playing poker or it's like, do the right thing. Don't go, I'm going to say don't go for the home run, but just, be reasonable. Whether it's, whatever you're doing. I think that's one just to kind of keep you not humble, but just like, that's fine. Let's go. Let's rock and roll with it. And then the other one, I've got a bunch of quotes here, but there's no illusion greater than fear itself. And so a lot of the stuff with FMD that we start, like, at the end of the day, everybody's worried about, not worried what people are going to think, but it's like, okay, well, if we get this, and we've got some backlash from some people that this is the stupidest thing on the planet. Well, then, okay, then I guess you're going to, just, have in any business, just, let's do it. We didn't have it all figured out with FMD at all, but I think when I'm telling my 12-year-old daughter, she just read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and not making her, but like, trying to understand the value of a dollar, but just the fact that we didn't have it all figured out, and you don't have to have everything figured out. But and so don't let the little things get in your way when you're trying to accomplish something. It's the big things, the biggest liability, and the biggest piece, and we'll figure out the rest later. And most of the time, and that's what you do also as a roof coach, is figure out you knew you had a good system, and then there's a lot more to it. But let's get it tweaked and we'll get it refined. But I think and the other thing is not getting bogged down and starting something out perfect. And everybody knows, don't be afraid to fail. But just not having something exactly figured out, just go with it, shoot from the hip. And that might be, I don't know, some people might say that's the stupid thing I've ever heard, but shoot from the hip and as long as you can work through the problems, and have smart people around you, it'll help.
That's pretty good. I might not necessarily agree with the shoot from the hip part. I like to have at least a formulation of a plan, but that doesn't mean I have all the particulars figured out. Right?
I have a good plan, but if we would have sat down and tried to get everything figured out with FMD when we started,
you wouldn't even be here.
We couldn't get off at high center. Yeah. So shoot from the hip, right terminology, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's that paralysis by analysis thing. Right?
Yes.
Overanalyzing something and you figure out all the reasons why you can't do it. Where
that's
once you get into it and you kind of put yourself out there, you say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Well, now you can't quit. You got to fight through because you can't let people down. You can't let yourself down. All right. And I want to make one other thing clear before we hop off of here. It's not just Texas, right? You fund deductibles anywhere in the nation. Is that, or 38 states or something like that?
Yes. And we've almost got all the states. And, whether or not there's it's a law in every state to pay your deductible. There's just loopholes, right? We have contractors in just about every state. And if I would have had this as a tool even before the law, I would have definitely it'd been not harder to collect because Texas is tough because a lot of them get covered, but it would have definitely been a tool to employ to collect those deductibles for people trying to do the right thing, and people on fixed incomes to people that have money. So and I think it's changes are coming, and the insurance. I think it's going to start. I think Oklahoma, they're talking about doing that same law in Oklahoma. So it's coming everywhere. So I think it'd be better for companies to be proactive and be ready. They should be collecting them anyways, but if not, using this tool to be ready for the change.
As long as we don't just forget about it and we're the squeaky wheel, we will get the grease at some point that, hey, this is a thing. We just got to be consistent. It's going to take time. And that's cool. There's time to get this thing done. Okay, last question.
Okay.
My favorite question.
Oh, here we go. When I'm ready.
So we all only have so much time on this planet, right? We all know that at some point it comes to an end. When that happens, what do you want people to remember about Kris Kincaid? What do you want them to have in mind whenever they think of you on that day? I'm
going to have to go with my kids and being a good father first, and being, a leader to them and to my family, a Christian leader, raising my kids the right way, and somebody that's always tried to do the right thing, sometimes to a fault. I feel like I'm too honest. My wife, oh God, that's Kris. He's going to tell the truth, but just somebody with integrity that try to do the right thing and appreciate the small things in life too. But probably not the best answer in the world, but that's at the end.
That's a great answer, actually.
My dad died when I was 3, and so I didn't have a father figure, and so it's kind of like I've had to not make my own, because I didn't have those things I did with my dad. Raised by a single mom, and so it's one of those. It's like I'm creating that, and so I didn't have that to look at to do. So hopefully I'm doing that right, and be remembered for that. So
here's one thing I'll tell you: you're there, so you're doing it right. Okay, that's important. No, that's something to be proud of. I think if we could all be good dads and Christian dads, the world might be a different place.
And good husband. Got to be a good husband.
Yeah, well, that one I'm always concerned about. You ask my wife, she might not always agree. I do my best, and I believe you do too. I got to meet your wife, just a glancing blow there, and I see you guys on Facebook. You guys look happy, and looks like you're doing a good job. So, Kris, anything here at the end you wanna share other than what we've covered already?
Well, I will say that we've kind of had a pause on really pushing FMD because we've integrated with a traditional finance company you and I talked about, where we offer down to 600 credit score. The contractor's paid directly and ready, a zero dealer fee. There's a few guys doing that, but if you go to fmdholdings.com, you'll see where you can fund a deductible, and then in the middle you can finance. And then we have one more leg that we've worked on. It's just a traditional credit card processing where it's $20 a month and no BS fees and 2.5% for credit, debit, everything. So that's something we've kind of been holding back till we've got everything because we don't want to be confusing. But now that we've pretty much got all that set, we're about to really try to take off. So
you gave it a glancing blow earlier, but now you brought it into the equation. So let's talk about it for a second.
Okay.
Financing. You guys offer that, and we actually teach that as coaches. Is like, hey, why don't we just finance this whole thing if that's a better option for you? And we take into consideration budget and morals and ethics and stuff like that. But if they have something pressing them that's a high interest type deal, use this as an opportunity to take that money, get that high interest thing paid off, and reallocate those funds into a lower interest situation like financing this particular thing. And so that's another offering that you have. So what's the difference between funding and financing? And let me see if I get it, and you tell me if I'm missing anything.
Yep.
So traditional financing means that there is some type of dealer fee that the contractor may be paying. It's usually smaller, but the homeowner is actually paying the finance charge on top to that finance company. Where funding is saying, hey, we've got this big number, $2,000, and we're going to break it up over a group of months, and I'm going to pay the fee, this fee to make sure that thing happens. Is that a pretty fair assessment of the two?
Absolutely. So yeah, traditional financing, it's usually a high interest rate and a low dealer fee, or a low dealer fee and a high interest rate. Some of the ones that are coming out are zero dealer fee. But at the end of the day, so traditional financing, Jim's contracting, as soon as it's executed, is getting paid in full or when the work is complete, right? And then with funding, you're setting that term up on your own terms to realize your profit. But obviously, it's so much easier to fund something with no qualifying and all that kind of stuff, no interest, and nothing off the homeowner except just signing up and doing it. But again, there's a time to finance and there's a time to fund, and there's a time maybe not to do either. But it's one of those they're both tools to construct a deal. And right now cash is king, so financing might be a good idea because they need that money, right now to do something else with. They just lost their job. They still want to get the roof put on, but they're going to make payments on that to the finance company, and then while also get the roof put on because the finance company paid the roofing company to do it. So the funding works with super high margin products, which is the deductible should be all profit in most cases, and high margin items where you can realize your profit at whatever term you want to set to construct a deal. So
I want to really drive something home here. That as I was driving back from meeting with you last week, I was rolling it around in my head, as a contractor, would I do this or not do this? I sure hate waiting for my money. That's the part. I hate waiting.
You didn't like that.
And what I really came to grips with is, well, yes, when I first start with Fund My Deductible, I mean, it might be a year before I get paid out everything on that job, but I'm not planning on being in business for just a year. I mean, if that's the plan, don't do Fund My Deductible, really. But if you're planning on, you think about it, within a year's time, now it's just rollover. The money that you're putting into getting funded is being replaced by the money that was already funded.
Mm-hmm.
if you're following that year format type of situation, whatever your format is that you choose to do with as a contractor, I would be about a year personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I may have to wait a year to realize all my profit on that, but at the end of that year, there is no difference at that point. I'm getting it either way.
6 dozen, one half the other.
Yeah. And so that part really kind of hit home with me on the drive home. I'm like, yeah, I'd probably do it. I'm not planning on being in business just a year. So
if it helps you sell, if it helps you sell one more roof a year, it's worth the $50 a month we're charging and the profit you're going to make off of that. And because that job should still be profitable, just not, realizing all of it until the term that you set or your salesman set. And that's, as a leader of your ship, you might say, look, 6 months, that's all we're going to do, or a year, or 24 months, or whatever it is. We had to set a limit on it. But, and I have sat down with the little old ladies that they're on fixed income. And either before you were going to cover the deductible to make the deal, let's be honest, and sell the roof, or now, you just realize that profit at whatever term you're going to set and make it, you're able to construct a deal. And anybody sitting in front on the dinner table, and that's something that a lot of guys didn't like with this. Like, look, everything's the same. Everybody, well, you can still, do your upgrade and stuff while collecting the deductible. And I think flexibility in any type of payment option gives your company a leg up.
Super cool, Kris. The more I delve into it, the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, hey, this is probably something that we'll definitely coach our people to, because there's one adamant thing that when we work with somebody, collect the deductible. Like, follow the law. Don't get yourself in trouble. Don't get your homeowner in trouble. Don't get your sales guy in trouble. There are many options. There's many options to getting that thing done. Do the right option for that particular circumstance, but don't. Because wording is important. Like I don't know how many times, and I put this post out. This is why I had you on here. I put this post out on Facebook. Said, hey, anybody out there that absolutely knows of somebody eating deductibles, let me know if you've got proof. And I got texts of contracts. I got Facebook messages of contracts. I got signs that literally say it on it. And so those were like hard proof. But there was and that was maybe 10%. The other 90% was, well, my homeowner got told that so-and-so is going to take care of their deductible. And I'm like, I clue in on words, okay? Like, take care of. What does that mean versus eat? Like, those are two very different words. Take care of means, hey, maybe I'm using some ACV funds to help offset that for that homeowner. And so that's a possibility. And when you know that that's a possibility, it's all in the wording of things. And I see that a lot with contractors going, so-and-so's eating deductibles or not getting deductibles paid. In most cases, they're using creativity that's legal to get those things done. So
ACV money.
Cautious of that. What's that?
ACV money is legal to do, that they're upfront money. Our office help when, because people call, and say, hey, can y'all take care of the deductible? And we say, we can help you with it. And
what do you mean by take care of?
Commit fraud, but if you tell that homeowner, yeah, you have to pay it or not that we can help you with it, they'll just hang up. It happened. I'm like, oh, no, tell them, yeah, we can help them with it, but we're not gonna absorb it. But if you tell them that on the phone, then they'll just call somebody else that says, yeah, we can cover it. So it just at least gives us an opportunity to present. And if they still don't want to do the right thing, my salesmen walk away every time. And it's, it's just one of those things.
It's one of the things we actually teach salespeople is like, words are powerful things. There's a big difference between help with, take care of, and eat. I'll pay your deductible. Like, those are different ways of saying a similar thing that don't mean the same thing. And so when the homeowner asks us something like that and says, hey, my neighbor over there has Joe Blow Roofing and they said they're going to take care of their deductible, I want to know more about that. So what does that mean to you by take care of their deductible? Mm-hmm. Are they going to pay it for them? Are they going to cut a check to the insurance company? How does that work? Have you gotten the specifics on what that means? Mm-hmm. But once you get into that conversation with them, it starts to dawn on them that, Billy over there isn't really having his deductible paid. He's using some of his other funds. There's something else going on there in a lot of cases. And we get confused by that simple thing of so-and-so is going to take care of my deductible. We need to do a little investigation.
I can't believe I lost that sale. They had to cover that deductible, right?
Yeah, and they didn't. They just did something creative and legal. And so you got to be aware of that. Kris has been good, really good. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking a risk. You're jumping out there with this Fund My Deductible thing. I think it is a good thing. I think it's useful in a lot of cases. I think across the nation, we're going to see deductibles more in those 1 or 2% instead of $500 or $1,000. And so I think you're ahead of the curve on that. And I think it's going to be something that's really cool. And cool to see you're still thinking, like financing and some other options out there. It'll be cool to watch you guys grow over the next couple of years. So thanks for coming on and being a guest.
Man, it's an honor to be here and to be in the same company as somebody like you. And thank you for what you do. Well, really, what you do for our industry. And, it's just doing the right thing. You don't have to do what you do, especially, and you're helping contractors get better. So for the whole industry, thank you. And thank you for having me on. And it's a pleasure, man.
I'm just a guy that has a particular set of skills. That's about it. I'm just
skills.
I'm just like anybody else otherwise, broken and sinful and trying to get better every day. So thanks for coming on. It was our honor, and we'll catch up with you.
Talk to you soon, man. Thank you.